Hey guys, today I'm going to be changing out the brake pads and rotors on my 2013 F-150. This will also apply to, it's going to be the same kind of setup in trucks from 2009 to I believe 2014. But I figured I'd do a quick little how-to. It's a fairly easy job. So here's the pads that I have, and I'm only doing the front ones this time. Here are the pads I have. These are the WAGNER brand pads I got from Amazon. And I've never tried the WAGNER brand before, but we'll see. They got pretty decent reviews, so let's see how they wind up. And I also have the WAGNER brand rotors here, and we'll put them in and find out how they turn out. Here are all the tools you need for this job: a ratchet, 13 millimeter, 21 millimeter. This is an impact driver. You don't absolutely need this, but this will help you out a ton. A breaker bar, torque wrench that goes up to 150 foot-pound or more, and of course some screwdrivers, pry bar, and a pair of jack stands. All right, before we can take the wheel off, we have to loosen the lug nuts. So I'm just going to use a breaker bar and a 21 millimeter just to break them loose before we jack it up and put it on jack stands and take the wheel off. All right, I got the bolts loose. I'm gonna go ahead and jack it up. I got some SUV jacks, so they go up higher. Your normal car ones aren't gonna work. For a little extra safety, I like to stick the wheel under here just in case the jack stand gives out or something. Stands, go ahead and take the brake fluid reservoir cap off. Let's get started on the brakes. So this is your caliper right here. That's where your brake pads are. This is your rotor, and this is your caliper mount. So what we need to take off are these two bolts for the caliper, and there are two more back here, bigger bolts that are for the caliper mount. Okay, so before we take the bolts off, we want to go ahead and push the pistons back in, since the pads are a little bit worn, so the pistons come out. So before we take these bolts off, let's go ahead and push them back in a little bit. If you can't get a spot, find a spot with the pry bar. You can try a screwdriver, and I don't care if I mess up the pads or rotors at this point, because I'm replacing them both. So here you can see the pistons are going in. Now that I have more space, I can use the pry bar the rest of the way. All right, they're in. Now the caliper bolts are 13 millimeter. Okay, make sure to support the caliper somewhere here with an elastic band or some sort of a hook. You don't want to leave it hanging on the brake line. So I'm gonna grab an elastic band. I guess we can, yep, all the weight is on the band and not on the brake line. So we should be okay right there. Okay, so pay close attention when you're doing any sort of brake job to make sure there's no differences in the inner and the outer pads. The inner pads here, you can see they have like these little ears. Let me pull them out and show you. So see, they got like these little ears. The front ones are flat. So you want to make sure we mount the new ones the exact same way. We're taking off these old ones. And you can see these old ones are in not bad shape, but my rotors are fairly worn, so I'm just gonna go ahead and replace it. So now that we have the pads off, we need to take off these two caliper mount bolts. They're 21 millimeters, same size as your wheel lugs. So let's take these off. I'm gonna loosen them with the breaker bar and then use the impact driver the rest of the way. I went ahead and moved my caliper up here with my little band so it's out of the way. Now we're gonna loosen the caliper mount bolts with the breaker bar. These can be a little tight. All right, now that I have them loose, I'm gonna use my impact driver to help me do the rest of the job quickly. And we're gonna replace these little metal shims here. You should get them with the new, you should have new ones with your brake pads. Okay, I'm not gonna lube the guide pins because I looked at them. They're perfectly fine. My truck is still fairly low miles. It only has 33,000 miles, so maybe next go around they don't need to be lubed this time. So here are the shims that came with the new brake pads. We want to just install them the same way the old ones are installed. So you take one off. See, it was installed like that with the little ridge on the outside. I'm gonna put them in just the same way. All right, let's go ahead and take the rotor off now. Let's see how stuck it is. If it's kind of hard to take off, we can just knock it. A couple times. There we go. There's our old rotor. Again, you can see everything looks nice and clean here because this is still a low mileage truck. Just clean off some of the dust. But yeah, everything looks good. All right, let me grab the new rotor. All right, here's our new rotor. Oh, these puppies are kind of heavy. All right, just slides right on. You can use a bolt, a lug nut to keep it in place while we mount while we bolt on the caliper mount back on. So we'll just get this in here just to help us keep it in place like so. Let's get the caliper mount back on. Okay, so the caliper mount is bolted down to 184 foot-pounds. So it's a lot. That's more than your lug nuts. Your lug nuts are tightened down to 150. So again, we're going to use the breaker bar tighten this bad boy down. I don't have a torque wrench that goes up to 184, so I'm just gonna go and do it by hand and make it tight, fairly tight. That's good. All right, next we need to install the new brake pads. Here are the new brake pads. So remember what we talked about. The little bunny ears are the inner, flat one, round one, no ears, front, outside. So these will just give you a close-up. They'll just slide. They should just slide right in. Get it in the shims. Okay, we got the pads on. Now we're gonna put the caliper back on. These are, by the way, the smallest caliper bolts I've ever seen for a full-size pickup truck. Now these are smaller bolts. These are only supposed to be tightened down to about 27 foot-pounds. I have a torque wrench for that, but I'm too lazy. So I'm just gonna tighten them by myself. Just kind of gauge it myself. Don't be lazy like me. Use a torque wrench if you have one. All right. Now we can take the lug nut off. Take my little hook off. And now we need to do the other side, but what I'm gonna also do is pump the brakes a little bit to get the pistons to come out and secure the brakes in place. Let me go see how that feels. I went ahead and pumped the brake pads, my brake pedal a couple of times. It feels nice and firm, so we should be good. I'm gonna give it a final little tug to make sure everything is tight. Feels good. Feels good. Feels good. Now we're gonna do the other side. All right, guys, I'm done with the other side. I'm just putting the wheels back on now. I didn't bleed the system. Let's see how it goes. I just pumped the brakes a few times after I finished each side. So far the brake pedal feels fine, but all right, these have to be tightened to 150 foot-pounds, so I'm gonna get my torque wrench and do that. All right. Of course, you have to lower the tire first, lower the car first, before you can tighten it down all the way. Let's go ahead and tighten these down to 150 foot-pounds. Check. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. All right, guys, I just came back from a test drive after finishing the job. The brakes feel great. I did a little bit of a bedding procedure. I watched a video from FordTechMakuloco. I'll try to find the link again on how to do that, but basically you go up to like 30 miles an hour, press the brakes, keep a moderate pressure until you come to a full stop. You do that about 3 times at like 30 miles an hour, and then you go up to 40 to 50 miles an hour, and you repeat the same process. So you're basically letting the pads like settle into their proper fitting, and that's it. So I don't think it's gonna need I don't think the brakes need to be bled or anything. I made sure that I didn't need to add any fluid, but check to make sure that the brake fluid level is in between min and max, or close to max, of course. And that's it. This job is fairly easy. I hope you like my tutorial, and I hope you give it a try sometime. Save yourself some money. You can put the money that you would pay someone else to do this job into buying better quality rotors and pads. So, you know, get better quality parts and do the job yourself, so you can still spend less money than you would a dealership or have someone else do it, but have better quality product at the end. And now you know how to do it. It's fairly simple. Thanks for watching.